Well, welcome back. Three former Twitter executives will appear before the House Oversight Committee on Capitol Hill today. They will testify on the decision to censor the New York Post's expose on the Biden laptop right before the 2020 election. The Post also reporting on an email sent by Hunter Biden to an American aluminum company, Alcoa, which promised information on Russian oligarchs. The email, described as a deeply detailed proposal, raising new concerns about Hunter's access to classified documents. Joining me right now is the Newsweek opinion editor, Josh Hammer. Josh, it's great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. First, let's talk about the hearing and what you're expecting from these former Twitter executives. They're going to have to explain away their decision to X out the New York Post when the New York Post had an incredibly important story that they broke, and that is the Biden laptop. They did this right before the election, which constitutes as election interference.
You know, to your lattermost point, Maria, it absolutely, in my mind, did constitute election interference. From my perspective, it probably amounted to an in-kind contribution to the Joe Biden presidential campaign in 2020. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri had actually previously asked the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, to investigate whether Twitter, Facebook, and the various other big tech oligarchs had, in fact, actually made an illicit in-kind contribution. That investigation was ultimately dropped by the FEC. Look, I am very happy about the fact that Twitter executives are coming to Washington, D.C. to testify as to what happened, because what happened was shameless, reckless, and it grossly undermined the fundamental electoral integrity of this country. I mean, this was literally less than a month before a monumental regime-defining election back in 2020. And you remember, Maria, you had this list of 50 high-ranking intelligence community people, Jim Clapper, all the rest of kind of the deep state clown brigade, if you will, getting out there and saying, oh, it's Russian disinformation. They literally took the nation's fourth largest newspaper by daily circulation in print, the New York Post, took it out of their own social media accounts for weeks on end. This was a genuine scandal. At the time, I referred to it as big tech's Pearl Harbor attack. It was way out in the open. They were not hiding what they were doing. So, you know, I'm looking forward to today's hearing. And, you know, look, I know Elon Musk is he's trying very hard, is my understanding. He's trying to make a difference there at Twitter. I think they've let go of like 75% of their workforce, something like that, since he took over. More change is going to be needed, but hearings like this are definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see those people who signed that document and lied to the American people, the spies who lied. I'd like to see them get subpoenaed, and I'm expecting that we will hear from those two, the former head of the CIA, and you mentioned James Clapper as well. But I got to get your take on this email. This is just stunning, okay? So documents dating back to 2011 on the laptop, which the Post broke, this is according to the New York Post, show that Hunter Biden offered to sell intelligence on Russian oligarchs to Alcoa for $55,000. This is according to the Post's exclusive reporting. As his father was the second in command behind Barack Obama, he was the vice president, Hunter Biden offered to provide, ready, here he goes, quote, a statistical analysis of political and corporate risks, elite networks associated with Oleg Deripaska, the Russian CEO of Basic Elements Company and United Company Rusal, which had just signed a metal supply agreement with Alcoa. So he reaches out to Alcoa and says, we have all of this information on your competitor, and we'll give it to you for $55,000. I mean, this is all in black and white. And the FBI has been sitting on an investigation of Hunter Biden for how long? 5 years? This guy is still walking around after all of this influence peddling. This is stunning.
No, it's absolutely reckless beyond belief. I mean, who is paying, or who would even in the right mind consider paying Hunter Biden $55,000 for a political and corporate risk assessment of the Eastern European Donbass, Donetsk region there in Ukraine and Russia? Who in the right mind would have paid Hunter Biden $1 million, as Burisma did, by the way, for his purported expertise in Eastern European natural gas and hydrocarbons? I mean, the man fundamentally has no expertise. As you and I both know, Maria, Hunter Biden, you know, he deserves our compassion. compassion to the extent that he has drug addiction problems, but he really is, to his core, and has been for many years, unfortunately, a drug-addled reprobate. I mean, there is no world in which he should be able to commoditize and sell any of this. And it's obviously only exacerbated by the fact that we now know that Hunter Biden had listed at various times his permanent address as, guess what, Joe Biden's Wilmington, Delaware mansion, where we just happen to know that there was classified information just laying out all over the garage and various other rooms. So, look, the Biden crime family, and I think that is accurately the way to describe what is going on here, they have had a bizarre relationship with that part of Europe, Russia and Ukraine, for many years now. Joe Biden, of course, was Barack Obama's point man on Ukraine around the same time that the Burisma stuff was coming out, that this email to Alcala was going out there. So this is actually very important. Some people are trying to dismiss the House GOP's interest in the Hunter Biden stuff. It's actually crucially important, because look at all the money we're sending to Ukraine, for God's sake. We got to figure out if there's any hint of corruption here. I
agree. And he also, by the way, offered Alcoa, quote, a list of elites of similar rank in Russia. The map of Deripaska's networks based on the frequency of interaction with selected elites and countries. It's quite extraordinary that Hunter Biden has this access to the classified information, getting information, selling it to Alcoa, and then pocketing the money. It's all extraordinary. Meanwhile, the Biden administration reportedly preparing to lift the COVID emergency on May 11th. Josh, the president already told us we were out of the emergency. You wrote a new Newsweek column called Progressivism versus Popular Sovereignty. You call out the American ruling class's insatiable desire to govern via perpetual crises.
Yeah, I mean, this is fundamentally the ethos of the progressive left. I mean, it was encapsulated by this infamous quote that Rahm Emanuel gave. He famously said, "You should never let a good crisis go to waste." And that has basically been the modus operandi for progressivism for a while now. I mean, obviously, it kind of came to the next level during the Obama administration. The Biden administration has taken it to yet another level there. But, you know, Joe Biden himself, a few months ago, later in 2022, he actually said that the pandemic is effectively over. So if you take the president at his own purported word, then the various kind of alphabet soup agencies out there, whether it's the FDA, the CDC, HHS, should no longer be able to kind of issue rules and regulations, especially pertaining to vaccine, masking, things like that, under the basis that we're still in a quote-unquote emergency. It's very, very important that we get out of this emergency setting.
Yeah. All right, Josh, we'll be watching your reporting and your writing. Thank you, Josh Hammer. We appreciate it. We will see you soon.